Tonight, an arrest over an incident in a hockey game that left a former NHL player dead. Suspicion of manslaughter in the death of Adam Johnson.
When you don't intend to kill someone, but you engage in an act that is negligent.
And the calls for better neck protection on the ice. Plus, Israel says it's conducting an operation inside Gaza's largest hospital. While in Canada, nearly 7 million people face hunger over skyrocketing costs.
It's obscene and we need to do something about it.
As rent prices hit a new high for the 6th month straight. And the new monarch on our money.
Very nice, yeah, like it very much.
The first batch of newly minted Loonies carrying the king's face.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina. Reporting tonight, Heather Butts.
Good evening. We begin with the stunning development in the death of former Pittsburgh Penguins hockey player Adam Johnson, whose neck was cut by a skate in the UK. The on-ice incident now a criminal investigation. Police in England have arrested a man on suspicion of manslaughter. CTV's Adrian Gabriel starts us off.
A deadly incident that has prompted strong reaction across the hockey world.
When you look at the video, it doesn't look like an accident.
October 28th, a skate comes into contact with pro hockey player Adam Johnson's neck during a game in Sheffield, England. The former NHL player struggled to make it to the bench. He was later pronounced dead at hospital. A post-mortem exam confirmed he died from a fatal neck injury. As former teammates and loved ones mourn Johnson's sudden death, police in England have been conducting a criminal investigation. It was opposing player Matt Petgrave's skate blade that came into contact with Johnson's neck when Petgrave's leg elevated off the ice. Today, South Yorkshire police confirming they arrested a man on suspicion of manslaughter, who remains in police custody at this time, though investigators didn't provide a name.
When you don't intend to kill someone, but you engage in an act that is negligent or engage in an act that is reckless, that can trigger a charge for manslaughter.
It hits very, very close to home when it's somebody you know, somebody you care about, so it's made it extremely tough.
Jordan Henry was Petgrave's teammate for several seasons. He's now struggling to come to terms with the accusations some have made against his former line mate.
We sat beside each other in the dressing room, just an easygoing guy, fun to be around, wasn't ever taking stuff too seriously, had a great time off the ice.
The incident has now prompted some of hockey's biggest stars to lead by example and wear a neck guard, even though they're not mandated by the NHL or many other top-tier leagues.
I made my choice for my kids and want to stick around for them, so just trying to decrease the chance of injury.
Neck guards at the highest level of the game will be front and center at next month's NHL Board of Directors meetings, though for approval, it will need the support of both the league and the Players Association. Heather?
Thanks, Adrian. Late tonight, the Israeli Defense Forces confirmed troops have entered the largest hospital in Gaza. In a statement, the IDF says it's carrying out a precise and targeted operation against Hamas in a specified area in the Shifa hospital based on intelligence information and an operational necessity. That hospital is also where drastic measures were taken today to deal with so much death. A warning, the images may be disturbing to some. CTV's Heather Wright reports.
Bodies are piling up at Al Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. And so the people trapped inside are burying them in a mass grave. The territory's largest hospital is no longer functioning. With fighting between Israeli forces and Hamas raging nearby, the bodies can't be removed, and no one can safely leave the facility, which has no power, little water, and no oxygen. The World Health Organization says more than 20 people have died in the last 48 hours because of the lack of basic medical supplies.
Every minute, every hour, we are hearing that either full hospital or departments in a hospital is closing its services.
Israel has long maintained that Hamas is operating beneath hospitals and released video from the Al-Rantisi Children's Hospital it says shows the facility was being used as a base. The WHO is pleading for a pause to the fighting. to help safely evacuate the thousands of people seeking shelter inside hospitals across the enclave.
The best way would be to stop the hostilities right now, focus on saving lives, not taking lives.
Today, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke about the situation in Gaza, urging Israel to protect civilian life.
All innocent life is equal in worth, Israeli and Palestinian. I urge the government of Israel to exercise maximum restraint.
Trudeau also paid tribute to Canadian-Israeli Vivian Silver, whose remains were recently identified after she was murdered by Hamas on October 7th. Her friends are remembering the 74-year-old as a champion of peace.
She knew how to connect with people, she knew how to listen to people, she knew how to understand situations, and she knew how to listen to different points of view.
Today, Israel reportedly approved the delivery of diesel for UN trucks used to deliver aid. A significant development, as the organization said yesterday. Its aid work would soon shut down if its fuel supplies weren't replenished. Heather.
CTV's Heather Wright. There is also growing concern over the fate of the hostages.
We need them home now.
Thousands marched in Tel Aviv today demanding more be done to secure the release of the 240 people held hostage in Gaza. A massive rally for Israel was also held in the American capital today. CTV's Washington bureau chief Joy Malbin was there.
In a sea of Israeli flags far from the fighting, they find strength in one another.
We stand here to say enough.
At the National Mall, thousands gathered, including Canadians, to support Israel and its war against Hamas, and to denounce the rise in hate, attacks on synagogues and schools. For many, it's a terrifying time to be Jewish.
We stopped at a gas station this morning, and a fellow came up to me and he said, "They let you in here? They let Jews in here?"
The rally comes after large protests criticizing Israel's military campaign and an international outcry over the fierce fighting that has cost a staggering number of innocent Palestinian lives, including children. A humanitarian crisis unfolding daily in Gaza.
First of all, I support Israel. You know, I feel there's so much suffering, the children, the families, unnecessary violence, and it just continues.
There is more than enough pain. Rachel Goldberg spoke of her son Hirsch, brutally taken hostage by Hamas at that music festival.
We hostage families have lived the last 39 days in slow motion torment.
Orna says her American-born son, a soldier in Israel, is also missing.
We all must use the power that we have to help bring Omer and all of the hostages home now.
As those calls grow louder, the U.S. president is optimistic it could happen soon.
I believe it's going to happen, but I don't want to get into detail.
What's your message for the families?
Hang in there, we're coming.
A deal to release the hostages can't come soon enough. 500 government officials wrote Joe Biden denouncing Israel's war tonight, demanding a ceasefire. Heather?
Joy Malbin in Washington tonight. Joy, thanks. A fiery crash involving a charter bus packed with high school students has killed at least 6 people and injured 18 others. Officials say the bus was rear-ended by a semi-truck on a highway east of Columbus, Ohio. 3 other vehicles were involved in the crash. 3 of the dead were on the bus, which had been carrying students and chaperones to a conference. A sense of relief in Vancouver tonight with a high-risk child sex offender back behind bars after a 10-day manhunt.
An off-duty Vancouver police officer who was arriving to work and observed Hopley standing near the front doors of the police station.
58-year-old Randall Hopley vanished from a halfway house earlier this month. He has served a 6-year prison sentence after kidnapping a sleeping 3-year-old boy from his home in 2011. And a former Canadian soldier who protested the government's COVID-19 vaccine mandate pleaded guilty today in a military court. James Topp is facing a maximum punishment of dismissal with disgrace. The Armed Forces reservist from Vancouver voiced his views with videos on social media wearing his uniform. Topp also led a long march to Ottawa rallying people opposed to vaccine requirements. New evidence tonight in the tremendous burden families are facing as the cost of living soars. Nearly 7 million Canadians struggled with hunger last year, some going without food for days. The troubling reality is detailed in a new study and comes as the number of people relying on one of the country's largest food banks reaches a staggering new high. CTV's Vanessa Lee reports.
The number of people relying on food banks in Toronto is unprecedented. A staggering 2.5 million visits this year.
1 in 10 Torontonians are making use of a food bank, and that is horrific, it's obscene, and we need to do something about it.
According to a new report on food insecurity and poverty in Toronto, skyrocketing housing costs, food inflation, and stagnating wages are pushing more and more households into poverty.
We've seen 120,000 new individuals come to the food bank in the past year. About half of them have someone who's employed in their household.
Rene Frank never imagined he would have to come here. He lost his job during COVID and then got hurt and couldn't work.
Oh, it's helped me tremendously. I mean, it means the difference between food or not. Sometimes good food.
Across the country, millions of families are struggling to put food on the table. Breakfast clubs are doing their best to make sure children get what's often called the most important meal of the day. Richard Parent volunteers at this Montreal school every morning. He says some students would otherwise go hungry.
These children said, it's just my only one meal of the day.
The number of kids they are serving nationally has doubled in the last 4 years, and there is now a lengthy wait list.
Over 700 schools that have submitted a request to our organization because they need help.
Nonprofits say they also need help. They're appealing for donations so they can attempt to meet the growing demand. Heather.
Vanessa, thank you. Canadians are not only struggling to afford food, but the homes they live in. The country is marking a new high for rental rates. The prices in Calgary soaring the fastest. That's where the federal government made an announcement today to help fast-track housing projects. CTV's Alberta Bureau Chief Bill Fortier reports.
In Calgary, the rising cost of rent is making life difficult for people like Sean Tuff, who's juggling rent and running a business.
Costs start going up at home, and it forces the timeline of business to change.
For the last 9 months, asking rent in Calgary has grown faster than any other city in Canada, according to rentals.ca, as more people move here from Ontario and BC for cheaper housing.
So now the demand in areas like Calgary have shot up so much, supply is now going to limit a little bit, and therefore prices are going to increase.
And the rest of the country isn't far behind that growth. The average rate for apartments jumped 9.9% last month, year over year, to nearly $2,200 per month.
There's a lot of high inflation right now. There's a low production of new housing.
As rent climbs, experts say more people are looking to save money by sharing the cost with others.
Roommate accommodations have increased by as much as 42% in areas like BC, Alberta, Ontario.
We are living in a housing crisis across Canada.
Today, the federal government promised $228 million for 6,800 new homes in Calgary, one of a series of announcements across the country.
If we're going to succeed, it's going to require that we pull every policy lever at our disposal to get more homes built as quickly as possible.
And we believe that at the heart of this issue is supply, supply, supply.
Ottawa says its initiatives are on track to build 71,000 new homes by 2028, but that's just 2% of the 3.5 million that are needed, according to the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, over the next 7 years. In a week from today, the finance minister will deliver her fall economic statement. She hints a major focus will be more action on housing. Bill Fortier, CTV News, Edmonton.
Coming up, Canada's public drug plan under the microscope.
I'm just worried if I do leave, if I'm going to be able to afford the medication.
The barriers people face when seeking medical support for mental illness. Plus, calls to suspend nicotine products out of fear they target children. Medications can be a critical tool in helping to manage mental illness. But as this country faces a growing mental health crisis, a new study warns patients face major barriers to access certain medications. CTV's Kevin Gallagher on what's blocking access to life-altering treatment.
Each day, 28-year-old Chelsea Meldrum takes up to 15 pills to treat her schizophrenia.
I have a few antipsychotics, which help with my paranoia, my delusions, sometimes my hallucinations, not fully though. And then there's a few that are antidepressants.
The medications help manage her hallucinations, keeping her in touch with reality and allowing her to attend university. Her mother's drug plan helps subsidize the annual $25,000 cost as long as she lives at home.
I'm just worried if I do leave, if I'm going to be able to afford the medication.
It's a fear Canadians using public drug plans face. A new study called System Broken found those with mental illness wait far too long for new medications and faced inequitable access.
So people who can't afford them won't be able to take these medications, and therefore their mental illness may not be treated as well.
The report blames a convoluted drug approval system. While private insurance only requires regulator Health Canada to sign off, the public system requires Canada's Drug and Health Technology Agency, or CADTH, to give a positive assessment before patients are reimbursed. Less than half of mental illness drugs got that approval. More than 80% of other medications passed the test.
One of the problems is that they have no psychiatrists on the committee. So you're evaluating medications for mental illnesses, but you don't have a specialist on the panel.
CADTH reviews drugs for every province and territory except Quebec and refused to do an interview for this story. Health Canada did provide a statement saying it's committed to ensuring everyone has access to the drugs they need. Kevin Gallagher, CTV News, Ottawa.
Access to flavored nicotine products has some experts sounding the alarm, concerned they target children.
A retailer that sells to minors will face no offense, no charges, and no fines.
Packaged in vibrant colors, the nicotine pouches were approved by Health Canada as a natural health product. Anti-smoking organizations want the federal government to suspend sales until protections are in place, fearing this product may lead to nicotine addictions. Still ahead, a groundbreaking collaboration. Transforming treatment by unlocking a new form of concussion care. Concussions have been known to sideline star athletes, but the head injury impacts many others. Every year, roughly 400,000 Canadians are affected by concussions. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver on the new research working to improve patient outcomes.
Are you on silver stick?
Lincoln Guest was only a toddler when he got his first concussion, and 10 years later, he can still remember how it felt.
It was hard to drive in cars. It was like if I looked at a screen for too long, it would hurt my head a lot.
Since then, Guest has lived through that post-concussion haze twice. His most serious caused by a body check during a hockey game in September.
Immediately, I saw the mental health impact first. He just wasn't himself. He was really sad.
That personality change prompted Guest's mom to contact the research team at Ottawa's 360 Concussion Care. There, he spent weeks in rehab under the care of concussion expert Dr. Roger Zemek before he could return to the ice.
Now it's like normal. It feels like I didn't miss a day.
Today, Dr. Zemek and his team of more than 20 research partners celebrated a milestone, $5.4 million concussion collaboration.
What this amazing opportunity is, it's a way for us to better understand how do people recover across the entire diversity of people with concussion.
It's estimated about 400,000 Canadians suffer from concussions every year. But Dr. Zemek says most research is siloed and focused on professional athletes or military members. He says this new funding will hopefully lead to better patient outcomes.
We want all our discoveries that we make in academia and in science to make it to the bedside and to the stakeholders that need it.
New ways of collecting and sharing data across North America that will be there if Guest is ever concussed again.
Don't take them lightly. They're a very serious thing because your head's very important.
The Transcendent Research Group is currently funded for 2.5 years, but the team is hopeful they'll eventually get more money, Heather, to continue for another 2.5 years.
All right, Annie, thanks. Every movement made by astronauts is carefully thought out. So imagine you're on a spacewalk and this happens. A toolbox drifts away beyond the reach of astronauts performing maintenance outside the International Space Station. One of them accidentally dropped the bright bag, which is now orbiting Earth. We're told it will disintegrate in a few months. A moving tribute to Matthew Perry by two of his closest on-screen friends.
Oh my God! That is so not the opposite of taking somebody's underwear.
Friends co-star Matt LeBlanc posted on Instagram, "I will always smile when I think of you," and added, "I guess you're keeping the $20 you owe me," keeping the humor alive. Perry's on-screen wife, Courtney Cox, remembered him as funny and kind. Perry died last month at the age of 54. After the break, Canadian currency gets a royal facelift. Finally tonight, the first look at the Loonie, bearing the face of King Charles. The Royal Canadian Mint unveiled the coin honoring the monarch on what is his 75th birthday. CTV's Jill Makashon on the new king and the new coins.
For the first time in 70 years, Canadians will find a new face on our coins. The image of King Charles looking left, the opposite of the Queen, who faced right. The portrait created by Montreal artist Stephen Rosati, who drew from multiple likenesses of the king to create this image.
It's overwhelming to know that how many millions of people will come across this effigy.
Officially, the work to change monarchs on our money began after the king's coronation in May. Normally, this process would take a year or more, but it was expedited.
Here we are on November 14th, the birthday of His Majesty King Charles III, ready to strike the first coin bearing his effigy.
More than 350 artists submitted their work. It was this image that was chosen, with final approval coming from Buckingham Palace. And no surprise, it received the royal nod, says the Monarchist League.
When you look at the effigy, there's a sense of warmth, there's a sense of gentleness, sense of wisdom to it.
And in the court of public opinion,
very nice, yeah, like it very much.
I don't mind it, but growing up, I'm used to seeing the Queen all the time.
If you're looking for the first newly minted loonies, watch your pockets in December as the currency enters circulation. Jill Makashon, CTV News, Winnipeg.
And before we go, we'd like to congratulate this year's recipients of the 2023 Global Center for Pluralism Awards, which recognize individuals and organizations who are promoting diversity, tolerance, and understanding. This year, the jury received 200 submissions from 60 countries, and the ceremony was held in Ottawa, which Omar was emceeing. And Omar will be back here tomorrow. Thank you for watching. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, good night.